All right, let's dig in. Today, we're talking about a project that literally takes learning out of the classroom and into the soil. We're going to walk through how to build a school plant nursery. It's such a fantastic way to bring science, nature, and some real-world skills to life for students. And it's all based on a hands-on educational guide. So let's get our hands dirty.
So where are we getting all this from? Well, our guide for this whole journey is Kaushal Bodh, which is a vocational activity book designed for 7th graders. This means what we're looking at isn't just some abstract theory. No, this is a field-tested blueprint for hands-on education. It's all about learning by doing. And that really brings us to a big question, doesn't it? What does it really take to grow more than just a plant? Because let's be honest, this kind of project is about so much more than just seedlings. It's about growing things like patience, responsibility, and, a real deep connection to the natural world.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why a school is actually the perfect place for a nursery. Then, we'll cover all the tools and materials you're going to need. After that, we'll get into the step-by-step process from seed to sapling. Then we'll look at the amazing skills students pick up along the way. And finally, we'll zoom out to see the bigger impact of a project like this.
First up, a nursery at school. Let's get into why this is so much more than your average school garden.
So, a nursery has some pretty unique advantages, mainly because it's a controlled environment. And that means students can do some incredible things, like helping to preserve native plant species or even creating new varieties. It also gives the plants a shield from pests and wild weather. Think crazy heat or torrential rain. You can even grow things out of season. It's basically a small-scale farm with some really big possibilities.
Okay, next section. Let's talk about gearing up for growth. Because before anyone can start digging in the dirt, you've got to have the right tools and materials all ready to go.
To get everything started, you're going to need a whole range of stuff, from basic hand tools to essentials like compost and potting mix. So let's break down exactly what you'll need in your starter kit. First up, the tools. We're talking about the absolute essentials here. Shovels and spades for digging, a hand cultivator to loosen up that soil, a grafting knife for propagation work, and of course, pruning shears. You might know them as secateurs for all the trimming. And obviously, you can't get far without a watering can and a solid pair of gardening gloves. Think of these as the instruments for your garden orchestra. Next up are the materials that create the perfect growing environment. You'll need seedling trays and a good growing medium like coco peat, which is pretty cool. It's made from coconut fiber, plus some nutrient-rich compost or manure. For the actual structure, you'll need a shade net and some poles to create that protected space, and maybe a tarpaulin for the ground. Oh, and don't forget plant labels to keep track of everything.
And now for the really fun part, Section 3, from seed to sapling. This is where all that planning turns into action, and students finally get to apply everything they've learned.
I absolutely love this image. Why? Because it shows that a nursery isn't some linear project that just starts and ends. It's a cycle, right? You prep the soil, you plant, you water, you nurture, you transfer the saplings, and then you start all over again. Every step flows right into the next, just like the continuous cycle of life in the garden. It's beautiful. So let's just walk through the key steps here. First, students set up that green shade net to create a really important controlled microclimate. Next, they prepare a raised bed and fill it with that good, nutrient-rich soil. Then comes the careful part, planting the seeds. After that, consistent watering is absolutely crucial for germination. And finally, as those little seedlings grow, students get nursery bags ready to carefully transfer the young plants, giving them more room to really thrive. And this brings us right to the heart of the whole project. Section 4, Skills that Blossom. What do students actually walk away with after all this work? Well, it's a whole lot more than just a plant.
The learning outcomes here are just so clear and practical. Students will be able to tell you exactly what a seed needs to sprout. They'll learn different ways to grow plants, not just from seeds, but from cuttings too. They'll actually master how to create the perfect conditions for a plant's early life. And ultimately, they'll have the skills to build a plant nursery from the ground up. These are real-world abilities.
All right, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit, beyond the garden bed. What's the larger impact of a project like this in a school setting?
This quote from the source material, it just says it all, doesn't it? The project sharpens observational skills, it builds a real deep knowledge of biodiversity, and it really drives home why conservation is so important. But more than anything, it instills a sense of environmental stewardship. Students don't just learn about nature, they learn to actually care for it.
And that leaves us with a final thought to take away.
Seeing how a simple nursery can become such a powerful learning tool, it really makes you wonder, right? What kind of hands-on project could totally transform learning in your school, or even in your community? What could you build to help skills, knowledge, and a sense of responsibility truly blossom?